Hi everyone, this is Supliful podcast where we interview fascinating people, and today with us is Cassiy, who is a really successful entrepreneur with print-on-demand products, especially on Etsy, and who also has a really nice YouTube channel where she shares a lot of useful tips and insights. Welcome, Cassiy.
Yes, hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and tell a little bit more about my story.
Yeah, thanks for joining. And before you joined us here today, actually, I did a little research on you, and you have an interesting story how the on-demand print-on-demand story started for you. So you and your husband, you got fired from your workplaces. Is that right?
Yes, well, my husband's company went out of business because of the pandemic, and then I got laid off. So all at once, neither of us had jobs. It was the craziest thing that's probably ever happened to us, all within 1 week. We were like, what? So at the
Okay.
time, it was really stressful, but obviously, you'll find out by the end of the interview that it all turned out fine. So, it usually does.
Yeah, so when you found out this, what back then seemed like a bad news, so what was your first idea, reaction? What did you look for a new job, or you thought, okay, finally I can try something new, or you knew already maybe that you want to do print on demand? So what was going through your head?
Yeah, at the time it was actually a little different because for the first 8 weeks of it, I was furloughed. And so I thought we were going back to work for sure. My little one had a couple weeks off school. I had a couple weeks off work. Like I said, my husband's company closed, but I thought I'd be going back to work. And so we were just kind of relaxing at home, not taking it too seriously because we thought everything would be fine. And then it wasn't until I got actually officially laid off that I was like, oh no, okay, now I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to start
that's for real.
looking. But then I'd been spoiled with being home for like 2 months. And so I started looking for at-home jobs and ways to make money from home, and remote work to see if I could find something to be home more because I really enjoyed my time being home for that long. I'm sure a lot of people listening, if you got to stay home for part of the pandemic, can probably relate. And so that's when I started searching on YouTube for ways to make money online. And I ran across a lot of different ideas. This wasn't my first thought with starting my own business. I'd done some research and tried some things in the past, but mostly making handmade stuff. So what I had thought before that time was that I would hand make some type of items and sell them on Etsy, because Etsy is a platform that I have shopped on personally for gifts in the past, so I was already familiar with it. And so I had tried making things like concrete candles, and then I realized they'd be way too expensive to ship, or little perler bead creations where you melt little beads in a pattern. But then I realized those would actually infringe on copyrights because I was making like Mario and different little
Okay.
characters. So that wasn't going to work either. And so then when I found a video about print on demand, where you didn't have to actually print the items or even ship them yourself, you just got to do what I think is the fun part and make the designs, then I was like, okay, this is perfect. And I got started the next day. So it was kind of a journey that I went down trying to find the right thing and figure out what I was going to do. But even then, I was looking at it as a side hustle. That wasn't like my plan for a full-time income. That's not what I went into starting print on demand to do. It just kind of happened over time as I got more obsessed with it. I eventually got another job in August of 2020. So, I was off work from about April to August in 2020 and had that time to build up my print on demand business. I went back to work, but then my sales really finally started to pick up with print on demand, and it met or exceeded my new work salary really quickly. And so that was a really wild time.
Okay, that's an interesting story. So you had user experience on Etsy. You probably knew the platform really well, and you kind of knew what people are looking for because you've been in your customer shoes, I guess, and you had some handcraft experience. But did you have any kind of like e-commerce experience from your previous job or some previous side gigs maybe?
No, all I had really done my entire career before that was in-person retail sales or on the phone sales. So really
Hmm.
only sales. I really never even had like a super computer tech job. So doing things like the designing and everything was definitely really new.
Are you using any kind of uh, sales language that helps you sell your products?
I don't think so, no. I don't
All
think that
right, so
my
it's
sales knowledge really helped me much with my Etsy business. No, I wouldn't say that it's really come in handy. Maybe knowing things like running sales helps with buyer psychology. I'm sure there's some little things that probably have been helpful, but it's hard to say.
all right. And you also mentioned on your YouTube channel that you got your first sale from your family. So is it a good idea to listen to your family and friends when you're starting business, because they of course want to be nice and they want to say, okay, you're doing great, which in some cases it can be they could be encouraging you to do something that's not really gonna work. So what was it like with you?
Absolutely. So, my family member that bought it from me was super supportive, super sweet. So, in my case, it was just really nice. She was just trying to support me and she purchased something. But I do think there is some danger in listening to your family and friends, depending on who they are, right? I always go back to a saying that I once heard that if someone's giving you advice, you need to look at the life that they have. And if it's not a life that you want, then you shouldn't take their advice. So I think more
Hmm.
often than not, it's probably that way instead of someone being overly supportive. What I hear from a lot of people is they're like, oh, well, that's just a scam. You can't make any money online. That'll never work. But then you're looking at someone who is working a job they hate for the last 20 years. It's like, do they really know? Or is this just what
Hmm.
they feel because it's not something they've ever been able to do? So I do think that putting your blinders on and getting in a community of people doing the same thing as you is really, really important. Early on, I joined a Facebook group with print on demand sellers. And I think that was one of the best things I ever did for my business because I had a community of support, people doing the same thing as me that I could ask questions, we could learn from each other. And so I think the more you engross yourself in the community and you get to see the success of other people and hear what issues they had so you can avoid them, the better time that you're going to have.
Hmm. Yeah, and also with friends and family, if they if you ask them feedback about your products or about what you're doing, and they praise you, I guess the best test is to tell them, okay, if you say you like it, then why don't you buy it? And that's the real test. If they actually buy it, then okay, they really mean it.
I
If they
think
don't,
that's a
then
really good
yeah.
point. Because, even when starting with print on demand, a lot of people have an issue where they design for things they like, not for what
Hmm.
actually sells. So I think you have that issue with friends and family. If they're not people who actually shop for, say, t-shirts or mugs or sweatshirts or whatever you're selling on Etsy, if they don't shop for those things on Etsy already, then their opinion might not matter. What if they don't wear any graphic shirts and you're asking for their opinion on your graphic shirts? It's not something that they would
Hmm.
ever actually buy, and so they're not the right ones to ask. So I think the best place to ask is the market. Not overthink it, get it listed, and then when people buy it, then if it's good or not. So I do agree with you that sometimes asking your friends
Hmm.
and family isn't the best course of action.
Yeah, and from another perspective, why, on the other hand, it is sometimes good to ask for friends and family's help, is that once they purchase something from you, and if you're selling on marketplaces, it can signal algorithms that this is a new product, somebody just bought it, maybe more people will buy it. I'm guessing. I don't know how Etsy really works, but maybe it works that way. Because you mentioned in your video, once you got the first sale, which came from your family, there was almost immediately the next sale from a complete stranger, right? Maybe it's a coincidence, maybe not.
Yeah, I do think that there is something to that, that from what I've heard, one of the biggest metrics that gets you ranked on Etsy is sales velocity. How many sales that item's getting in a small amount of time. If Etsy sees, okay, 10 people already bought this today, that must mean people really like it. So if I show that to 100 more people, maybe 10 more will buy it. And so they'll start showing it to more people buy, so then they show it to even more people, and then more people buy. So I do think there absolutely is something to that. I've seen that quite a few times where something will sell once and then it'll really start to take off, even if it took a little while to get that first sale. So I think there really is something to that. So if your friends or family buy something that you actually did really good research for, you made a design that stands out, then that can help boost it in the algorithm for sure. I wouldn't rely on trying to start your business with friends and family. I just think that's a nice little teeny boost. If you can get 1 or 2 reviews from family members to get you started off, that's great. But obviously that's not something you'd want to rely on forever because there's only so many of them. You really want to learn how to sell organically to strangers on Etsy, and that's how you'll really scale your business.
Yeah. Because starting is the most difficult part, and whatever way you can just get the snowball rolling, whatever works is good, I guess. And then speaking of print-on-demand providers, you mostly use Printify, as I understand. Why? How would you compare using Printify versus using Printful? Because they both have different supply chains or supply models. Printify is more like decentralized. They connect you with print providers across the globe, whilst Printful has its own print facilities. So there's a lot of discussions going on online. Which one is better? What's your take on this?
Absolutely. So, I really haven't used Printful a ton, but they are who I actually started with. So I started complete with Printful, and I think I did around 50 or 100 listings through them, and it was a fine experience. But since I started in 2020, and they were having a lot of issues with supply at the time, I ended up switching to Printify because Printful was taking 4, 5, 6 weeks to fulfill items, which wasn't going to work. I needed items to get out for Father's Day. Was my first big niche that I broke into and started getting sales. I'm like, this is going to ruin my new little shop if I have all 40 of my new sales not make it by Father's Day. And so that's when I found out about Printify in a Facebook group, and I made the switch over, and they were shipping things out in a week or 2. So it was much quicker. So that's originally why I made the switch. Over time, I have used Printful for certain items that Printify doesn't offer, like being able to print on the arm of a shirt or the arm of a sweatshirt or little things like that, or if something was out of stock. So I still use both, but 99% of the time I use Printify because I find the quality through Monster Digital, as my favorite print provider on Printify, is amazing. It's really, really good. I'd say Printful is very similar, but it's a lot more expensive. I actually sat down and did the math for, I think it was the year of 2021, and I went through my 13,000 sales and calculated how much approximately, obviously you can't be exact because every order is a little different, but if I had used Printful that entire time instead of Printify, sure, it's only $1, $2, $3 more expensive for some items, but when you times that by so many orders, it was almost a $40,000 difference in profit that I made more because I used Printify instead of Printful. And that was just all the proof that I needed that I was still in the right place, because I still get great reviews, I still get really fast service, I get great items get sent to my customers, and I've been overall just really, really happy with Printify.
Okay, what about quality? So is it comparable for the same items on Printify and Printful? What's your experience?
Mostly the same items. There's some items that, one offers that the other one doesn't, but the majority of the things I sell are the more generic items, like the Bella Canvas 3001 shirt or the Gildan 18,000. And Printify has a lot more print providers, and so there are more options with them. So, more colors, more styles. I'd say they have a larger catalog to choose from, which I like. And then quality-wise, like I said, maybe not every single print provider from Printify is as good as Printful, but there's quite a few that, in my opinion, are just as good. I've ordered tons and tons of samples, and I think they look amazing. I did do a whole sample video where I got one from Printful and then a bunch from Printify to compare, and I think they hold up really well quality-wise against each other.
All right, yeah. Thanks for sharing your experience and comparing these two providers. Hopefully our listeners it will be helpful for them. And have you ever been tempted to launch your Shopify store, for example, because that enables you to build a brand, it enables you to build a customer list and remarket to them your products, get repeat purchases. Of course, you don't get a lot of free traffic as you do on Etsy and other marketplaces, but there are some pros and cons. So have you ever considered that, and what do you think about it?
Well, when I first started my Etsy store back in 2020, my shop got suspended right after I got my first 2 sales. That happens to a lot of people. It's really normal. Etsy just gets so many new people who sign up, and sometimes they're scammers or bots. And so sometimes the wrong people get caught in their system. And so I was suspended for an entire month, but I was already so convinced that this was the right path that I went and started a Shopify store in the meantime. And wow, was that so much more work. So obviously I was brand new, trying to learn print on demand and Shopify and marketing and Facebook ads, all at the exact same time. So now I probably would have an easier time starting, but what I've learned being on Etsy over the last 3 years is there's a big benefit to being in a marketplace where people are already searching and purchasing items every single day. Because building a Shopify store is an entirely different business model. On Etsy, I sell a general store is what I've chosen to have. So I don't have just one niche. I actually sell in thousands of different niches. I follow the demand that's already on Etsy and create new, interesting, value-adding products to that niche to catch some of the market share that's already there. And so moving into a Shopify store, it seems to me, obviously I'm no expert, you need to be a lot more specialized and more specific and pick maybe one niche. And then you need to build like a social media presence. You need to learn Facebook ads. You need to do retargeting emails. It's a very different business model than what I've built in the last 3 years. And so I don't think it's a bad way to go by any means, but no, it's not something that I'm ever going to be considering for myself because I just think that Etsy is the way easier path.
Okay. Thousands of niches. I didn't realize there are so many niches, but sounds like your strategy is to kind of like throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. And then once you see one niche perform well, you probably just multiply designs in that niche and then just amplify results there. Is that correct?
Yeah, at the beginning it felt a lot like throwing spaghetti at the wall. Eventually, though, I've gotten a lot better at really recognizing when there is demand, looking on Etsy and seeing, okay, there's, 5 or 6 best-selling products within this niche, so I'm going to go get into that niche. So it's less spaghetti against the wall and more spreading out across all of the niches for the entire year. So making sure that I have niche, designs in every holiday, different appreciation days, different seasons. And that's what's really helped me gain a really consistent income. Because in the beginning, when I first started, I had a couple things for Father's Day, and then I had to build some stuff for 4th of July here in the US. And, there'd be times where I'd get a bunch of sales and then nothing, and then a bunch of sales and then nothing. And so for the first year, it felt really rocky and inconsistent. I'm like, how could I ever quit my job with this? Like, how do I know it's going to keep going? But then my second, my full year, 2021, that I sold, I started being really early to all the trends and the holidays that I knew were coming up. And so again, that just kept it. There's still some spikes in there for the biggest holidays, but now my minimum is up here where I'm always making at least this much, and then I get some spikes. And so that's really helped me, like I said, gain a much more consistent income, and was comfortable quitting my job. So about a year and a half in, I think it was June of 2021, I quit my full-time job and just got to do Etsy full-time, which has been something I've never looked back on. No regrets.
I'm happy to hear that you were able to build a really nice income stream doing something you love and quit your job. It's always great to hear when people reach that point when they can quit their job and just do whatever they want to do to sustain their lifestyle. That's really nice. And speaking of seasonality, I didn't mention, but actually before I founded Supliful, me and the Supliful founding team, we used to run a dropshipping business also in print on demand.
Really?
We used initially Printful, then we used several other print providers. It took several years to scale it, and it took several years to realize that there's actually it's a very seasonal product that we had. Those were personalized map posters. So we saw a really huge spike in sales, of course, around Black Friday. And starting from Cyber Monday through Black Friday and all the way until Christmas Eve. Yeah, basically that's when there was like huge drop in sales until like second week of the January, when it started to pick up again. And then there was Valentine's Day, which was huge for us. And then the rest of the year, actually, we realized in the last couple seasons before we sold the business, we realized that there's no point even like trying to get sales. We just turned on some like automated campaigns and could just put our feet on the table and relax until the next Black Friday. So that was our cycle throughout the year. But yeah, I guess it really depends on the product and the niche you're in. Yeah. So unrelated question, when I went through your YouTube video, which by the way is linked below somewhere in the description, how do you come up with so many YouTube video ideas? It seems like there's like endless ideas, and they're really detailed and specific videos. Do you have a fan base that asks you questions and then you create the videos?
Yeah, so in the beginning with my YouTube channel, it was really easy. I'd say the first 50 videos I already had made up in my mind when I started my YouTube channel, because there was not a ton of step-by-step hold your hand tutorials on YouTube when I started making videos, and that's what I really felt like I was missing. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to go through all the things that you need to know that I had to struggle and trial and error and figure out myself. And so first it was really, really easy, and then over time, now that I've gotten over 100 videos, it's gotten a little bit more difficult to come up with ideas sometimes. But just like with the seasonality of making seasonal items for products and selling those on Etsy, I found a lot of correlations between having a YouTube channel and having an Etsy channel. Or, you know what I mean? And so, I have really leaned into helping people get ready for the holidays. And there's always a new holiday coming up. And then I do get lots of comments on my channel of people asking, can you review this new software? What's the difference between this? And so I do get a lot of my ideas directly from the comments in my YouTube channel. So if there's anything anyone listening wants to see, feel free to comment and I'll see if it's something that I can make for you. Because the only reason I have my YouTube channel is to bring value to the people watching. If I'm not bringing value and teaching you something new, helping you solve a problem, then there's no reason to watch it. So it's a really nice, happy relationship between me and my subscribers, because I'll just make the things that they need, and in turn they watch my videos, and we're all happy.
Okay, so that's a good philosophy. Like there's a lot of channels, I guess, chasing trends and algorithms. You're just putting out useful content, and it works well for you, I think. Um, and then regarding Black Friday, it's actually not so far away. Um, when's the best time to start preparing? How early do you start preparing for it? And then do you have some kind of already like basic checklist from previous years, what you do to prepare for Black Friday?
Absolutely. So, with print on demand, I don't prepare necessarily just for Black Friday because there's a lot of market share available for all of the Q4 season. So my best recommendation is come, June or July, you need to be preparing for, in the US here, Halloween. If you're selling anything in the United States, Halloween is a huge holiday. People love selling spooky themed, witchy pumpkins, fall themed. They love that stuff. And so if you can really get prepared in, June or July for those October sales, then you can really take off with those. And then come July, August, that's when I start switching to adding in Christmas items as well. So I prepare very much in advance because some people like to shop for this stuff really early. And if you can start getting sales a few months in advance, get a few sales, get a few reviews, get some more sales, get some more reviews. By the time the masses come start shopping, now you're actually up towards the top of the first page ideally, because you already have proven your product to Etsy that when they show it to people, people buy it. Because again, like we talked about, they measure sales velocity. So if you already have some velocity behind your listings, and now come, beginning of October when people really start buying tons of Halloween stuff, you'll be at the top. And beginning of November is when they really start buying a lot of Christmas stuff. So if you can have all of your Christmas items up, or at least tons of them, before November 1st, you'll do way better, especially if you got it up in time to get a few sales and a few reviews by that time. Now, 3 years in, it's a lot easier because I have the items that I listed the last 3 Halloweens and the last 3 Christmases that are already successful from years past that are going to continue to sell every single year. And so I get to just keep building on top of those, making variations, trying new things. But your first year, it's definitely going to feel really daunting. If I could give anyone advice, I'd say to try and get up as many Halloween and Christmas listings as you can your first year, because you don't know what works yet. It's a real trial and error. You have to learn what designs sell well, what niches sell well for that holiday. And so my best advice for having a really big Q4 would be to try and make 100 designs for each of those 2 holidays, which might sound like a lot, but I think it gets easier the more you do, because let's take Christmas, for example. If you can make a really cute design, maybe with just a Christmas hat and 2 cute fonts underneath that says like Merry Mama, and then you change it and say Merry Teacher, Merry Nurse. You can take one design template and make it into lots of different niches that you see are already selling well on Etsy, non-Christmas related. And so that you can get a lot done in a small amount of time. It's not like I'm saying you have to create 100 completely unique looking designs. But if you can get into lots of different niches, that's where I've had a lot of my success, is in combining niches, like different professions, different, people like mom or grandma or aunt with the holiday, and not as much with like a shirt that says like Merry Christmas, for example.
Mm-hmm. I'm listening and I'm thinking the biggest takeaway from this podcast is that there is no secret sauce. There is no some kind of marketing hack. It's just doing and just doing it. Be patient, and the results will come.
Yes,
because
unfortunately,
people,
I wish there was some secret hack that I could give, but I've never found it. If there is one, just grit, hard work, trial and error, pay attention to what works, and do a lot more of it. That's the whole secret to success for me.
Yeah. And before we wrap up, do you think there is a potential for functional food, supplements, or specialty coffee on Etsy? have you noticed any such products, and do you think it could do well on Etsy?
That's interesting. I don't know. I try to never speculate and only research will be my best answer for you. So personally, I would never launch a product on Etsy that had never been sold on Etsy before. Like I said, my whole business model is to make sure that there is already demand for the product. So if I'm going into a new product, let's say I want to sell coffee mugs, we'll say for example, then I'd go find 10 stores on Etsy that have opened within the last year or two that have sold enough coffee mugs that they would have made enough profit for me to meet my income goals. So let's say I want to make $5,000 a month. I'd go see, okay, these 10 stores that I found have all sold this much. If I sold that much, I would have made this much profit. Does it meet my income goals or not? And if I can't find enough stores that have made my own income goals in the last year or two on Etsy, then I don't go into it, because I try not to make any decisions, emotionally for my business. I make every single decision based on the research of what's already proven. Which might sound counterintuitive. Sometimes being a market leader and being there first with the new thing can be great, but that also could mean that no one's searching for that on Etsy. You might have a hard time selling it.
I totally agree with you. There is this, it's like a wisdom traveling around the internet that you need to do always this blue ocean strategy. You need to invent something new. Which of course it's great, but also it drastically reduces your chances. If you want to be trailblazer, then it's going to be much more difficult. You basically need to create a new market. Whilst if you go on a proven path, then you can learn from others. The market is there, and you just have to do your job well, and you'll probably see results. So it's a safer bet, and then once you're safe, you can do some experimenting, I guess.
Well, and there's always sometimes ways where you can fit it within a niche that's already selling. So if you can, say, market something to people that are already searching on the platform, like let's say people are buying gift boxes for their best friends. If you can market gift boxes to best friends that are like health themed, if you can't find a way to sell the item you're looking to sell, if you can find a way to fit it within something there already is demand for, then that's always a great way to add new products as well. So I haven't done the research on that particularly, maybe there's tons of demand for it. But again, that's, always where I start my decision making.
Yeah, thank you, Cassiy, for sharing today your experience, some really good insights. As I mentioned, biggest takeaway for me is that you just need to do your homework, need to do your research, and then get to work. And that's great. I'm happy that it worked really well for you. I guess it was a blessing that what probably seemed at first like really bad news about losing your job, but it turned out pretty well for you in the end. So thanks for coming today and sharing these tips. And for the listeners, there's a link to Cassiy's YouTube channel down below. Make sure you visit it and check out the videos.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It was great talking with you. Hopefully everyone got a ton of value.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.
All right, cool. Thanks, Cassiy. Yeah, it was really good. So 30 minutes, good content. And as I said, our video editor will work on this later, and then we can share it with you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
What did you think about it?
Ask that question at the end. Hopefully that wasn't not the answer you wanted.
No. It's totally cool. I think there's an audience for every content and every guest, and I think here for somebody who's thinking about selling something on Etsy, this was really valuable, and then they can follow through to your channel and learn some more. So it's good content, and it's my third podcast, so I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just asking questions and
Well, I think you did good. You know, you didn't just like read off your list. You like went off the cuff and like saw where the conversation took us and dug deeper.
Yeah.
That's what I try to do in my interviews too. As I always try and come up with an idea of where I wanted to go, and then depending on what's interesting, and I'll veer
Hmm.
off. So, not that I have a
Yeah.
ton of
I
experience.
forgot to mention initially that you're also welcome to ask any questions if you have like any follow-up questions or something like that. Um, yeah, maybe like if there is something, then you can still ask and we can just edit it later in the episode if
Um,
if
I don't
you
have
have
any
any
like
questions.
particular
Yeah.
questions. The only question that I had was, I guess I'm not really super clear on what you guys are doing.
Hmm. Yeah, so Supliful is basically the same Printful, but in a supplement space. Or in other words, Supliful is a platform where you can come, pick products, customize them, publish them to your Shopify or to marketplaces like Amazon, Etsy, Walmart, and so on. And you can sell these products. And when an order comes in, then we dropship it directly to your customer. Thus, you can
Interesting.
avoid inventory costs. You can avoid all kind of operational costs or work that's related with fulfilling orders. So this is the same principle, except it's in the supplement space. Supplement functional food. Also, skincare is coming. So we want to be like a single platform where you can launch a consumer brand. And we also try to provide our customers with all kind of tools that they need to succeed, like label design templates. We have a Shopify store theme that's purpose built for supplement sales and all kinds of other stuff. We even have a
Wow.
branded support, which we discovered is big, like a time, not like a time waste, but it's like a huge operational hurdle for a lot of sellers when there's a lot of questions coming in. They want to focus on sales and on the fun part, social media and so on. And so we can also take care of support.
That's a really good idea. If someone offered that for Etsy, I would take it. That's the one thing with Etsy that I wasn't expecting is that the customer service, especially around the holidays, can take a lot of time. And,
Hmm.
obviously it is what it is. It brings you sales, but if there was someone that could come in trustworthy and do all my customer service for me, I would pay for that. That would be great.
Yeah, that's like I don't know how you call it in English. It's like the work that nobody likes to do. It's like you need to roll up your sleeves and do it. But if someone else can take care of it, then it's really great. One question though I forgot to ask you: do you ever have out of stock situations, and what do you do in such cases? Like
Absolutely. Yeah, there's
let's say you have orders coming in and you realize, okay, this product is out of stock and it's gonna be back like in a few weeks, and then you have a bunch of customers who are getting angry.
Yeah, that definitely happens. There's times where it's out of stock, but that's when it really, really pays off to work with Printify because there's always someone with something in stock. There's so many different print providers. The chances of there not being anything in stock is really, really low. Since moving to Printify, there's only one time where like a product actually got taken down, like the whole product type. And so then, you have to cancel orders. But beyond that, if let's say like a color is out of stock, you can always use a different print provider and still get it out really quickly. And Printify does have an automation system that can do all of that for you if you want. I do choose to manually do it, but they make it super simple. If something's out of stock, it says, hey, this is out of stock. I can push a button to find another print provider. I just go through the list. It tells me the price difference if it's less than what I paid with the one I picked or more. And I click fulfill and they do the rest of the work for me. And so that's been a really, really easy experience. It's been just a couple of times ever that I've had to say go to Printful or ask them if they need to switch to another color or something. But it's never been, I need you to wait weeks to get your item. It's just, hey, this is out of stock at the moment. Would you like to wait? Or, I could switch you to this other color that's in stock right now. And it's been a pretty simple process.
Okay, yeah. I was thinking I'll have to do an episode with somebody who sells exclusively with Printful next time to balance it out. Because I will meet these guys in some kind of event.
Yeah, right. That way you can stay friends. I do have someone, if you'd want another print-on-demand person. My friend Shauna almost exclusively uses Printful. She'd be a good person to talk to.
I'll ask Ucha then to follow up. My colleague Ucha, who reached out to you. And that would be amazing. Where is she selling? On Etsy? Or?
Yep. Yeah, so she's on Etsy too, so I don't know how many Etsy people you want, but if you need more Etsy people, I know almost everybody. If you need contact.
Thinking initially that Etsy is not really the platform where our customers sell. Maybe because we don't have yet like direct integration. There's a workaround, but there's no direct integration. But the other reason, I guess, is because maybe supplements don't do that well on Etsy.
Well, the other question is, can you sell them on Etsy? I've never looked into like Etsy's terms of service. They are strict sometimes on like what you're able to sell on there. Like, I don't know if you've ever met the founder of Shine On. I don't know where he's from.
I have actually. I went to an event in Barcelona last year, Affiliate World, and I met them.
Oh, that's fun. Well, so they're having an issue right now where Etsy is saying that only customizing the comment card behind the jewelry doesn't count as being handmade and being able to be sold on Etsy. So unless you're actually like making the jewelry or something, they're like taking down tons of Shine On listings right now. So that's just what I've heard. I don't use them, but so there's things that Etsy doesn't allow you to sell. So you'd have to look and see if you even can, Yeah.
So basically Etsy doesn't want to become like a Amazon type of marketplace where everybody can sell everything. It's more like a crafty marketplace where you can buy unique stuff.
Yeah, it needs to be like handmade-ish, so like print on demand counts because I make the design and I sell it. Like I think technically they don't want people to like buy designs and sell them on there, but they can't police who does that. And so, you can't like resell things. You can't like go on Alibaba and buy cheap products from China and list them on Etsy. That is a no-no. You can't do that. So like reselling isn't technically allowed. So like with the supplements, I wonder if that would even be able to be allowed.
Maybe to the point where they realize that Supliful exists and that's where the orders get fulfilled from.
Right, because you have to say, if you're not the one who actually like manufactures and ships the product, you have to like put that in there, like I have to put that I work with Rectify in every single listing. So I don't know, it'd be something to like research and see if you're able to, because you wouldn't want people to like build up a whole business on Etsy and then get it taken down like Shine On is right now a year or two later when they figure it out and are like, hey, this is against the terms of service, it doesn't count.
And print on demand is fine because there's the design value. It's like the design is what counts.
The design is the thing you're buying. Right, exactly. Yeah. I'm like, so I don't know, it's an interesting thought. You'd have to like see and look into it on if you actually can.
Okay, Cassiy, so thanks again, and really glad that I spoke with an Etsy expert because once we publish this, we might capture an audience that's focusing on Etsy, and then they realize, okay, there's Supliful, let's give it a look, and then that's how you reach new audiences.
Right, yeah, again, I don't think there's ever just only one way to be successful. Some people aren't going to do as well with Etsy because there's so much design, there's so much research, like if your passion is to like just do the marketing, and you really want to do the social media, you want to run the Facebook ads, and that's where you want your focus, and just promote one product that's already proven, easy to promote, then something like Supliful would be a better fit for them if that's their skill set. Whereas with Etsy, it's like constantly looking through what's selling, trying to be creative, coming up with new ideas consistently over and over and over again. You can't just like create 1,000 products and be done forever. There's always new trends, there's always new styles. You can't just like stop forever. You can stop making designs for 3 months, 6 months if you want, but eventually your store will die. Etsy's something you have to like keep pouring into and following the trends and making new stuff, where something like Supliful, might not be that way. So
do you still have a minute? I forgot to mention, what's the biggest advantage of Supliful compared to print on demand, and why we created Supliful in the first place? So we had a print on demand dropshipping business where we sold posters, and the same year that we finally learned how to scale it and we reached really good results, and that was like a peak of the COVID, we decided to sell the business because we didn't see how we could take it further, how we could scale it more. There was really low repeat purchase rate, so about 5%. Because like, how many posters are you gonna hang on your wall? there's a limited space, right? And so we figured, okay, we know how to acquire customers, we know how to build a brand, let's do the same, but now let's do it in some kind of consumer product space. So consumables, something habit creating that people consume and they reorder again and again. So we're into fitness, we use supplements like protein, creatine, so on. So we figured, okay, let's do this thing. And then we were looking for something like Printful in the supplement space, and we couldn't find anything. All we could find were like 90s style websites, super old school, ugly websites, where you had to submit orders through email with a CSV file. So it was super backwards, and we realized, okay, there's opportunity here. You have to do like quite a lot of work that nobody wants to do, but once you build a system, then it could actually have a huge potential. And our customers now, and there's quite many of them who've managed to build already really good stores with supplements, and they have a very high repeat purchase rate, so something above 30%. So it's really great in this era with really high customer acquisition costs. And specifically, I'm talking about like a Shopify stores. With Etsy, Amazon, and other marketplaces, you don't have traffic acquisition issues. It's more like how do you optimize your listings for the marketplace. But yeah, like if you have to acquire customers, so through social media ads and so on, so it's super important that you have very good unit economics and really high repeat purchase rate, because a lot of times with the first sale you're at loss, and then with the second, with the third one, you start making money. And this is where the biggest strength of Supliful is, that there are a lot of habit creating products which are great products and that people consume and reorder again and again. So that's like, in a nutshell, how is it different from print on demand?
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So yeah, completely different business model. I think that it sounds amazing. I think you found a really good pocket in the market where there's definitely need. You make me think a lot about Alex Hormozi. If you haven't watched his content, yeah, I'm sure you have.
Yeah, he's all over the place. You can't avoid him.
Yeah, you can't hide from Alex Hormozi. He'll find you. It just makes me think of him, right? Like in ways to like scale your business in big ways with print on demand. The repeat business is almost non-existent. You can try to do that. You can build email lists and things on Etsy, but I don't think that you'd be able to scale it as much as what you can with something like Supliful. Like I said, you just need to scale out your marketplace on Etsy and have more listings and more listings and more listings, and it'll scale. But it's just very different because it's always finding the new things and getting into new niches and following the new trends. You don't get to just like do that research once and then launch it and keep going for years and years like you could with something like the supplements.
Yeah, it's different environment, different rules. Both are fun, I guess.
Right, yeah, again,
Right,
I don't
Cassiy.
think there's a way to go. So thanks so much for having me.